Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Fix the XJ6. We can finally move forwards a little bit. There's still a delay or two we're waiting on, but we can actually get something done. Thanks to Wiimoto, the day after I discovered that the piston that I had delivered didn't seem to be quite right. They had an OEM one out. OEM's going to fit, so that's the best thing for me. They're currently resolving that issue. I've already talked about this. Wiimoto is really up against it at the moment, as is a lot of people, and that's why my torque wrench, which is another delay, has been a saga. As they've given me new seals, and I had to force the other piston in and out a few times, I'm just going to replace them because I've got them. Obviously this wouldn't normally be a problem. Right, so torque wrench. I need a torque wrench that starts at 30, and it needs to go up to above 110. And believe it or not, that's a bit of an odd range. They normally end at, below 30. Or just over 30, but don't go anywhere near as high. Well, long story short, I found one that does the job. It goes from 20 up to about 200. It's the one that I borrowed in the past, the digital one, and it's not too expensive, and it was the one I was going to get. But unfortunately, it's a Clark. So Machine Mart, the people you've got to get it from. Where's my brake fluid? Is Clark a Machine Mart own brand or something? I don't know. But anyway, point is, going back a couple of weeks now, I asked them, have you got one of these in stock? Because your website says call for availability. They said, I'm very sorry, we don't have it in stock at the moment. We do have some coming in as we speak. Give us a call in a few days' time and we'll let you know more. So, called a few days later. Yes, we've got 100 in stock that have come in. They're going through quality control. You should be able to order one by Friday. Call Friday. So that's Monday to Friday. So we're up to about a week and a bit at this point. Okay, cool, whatever. I know there's problems at the moment. Then I call them on that Friday and they tell me, I don't know what you're talking about, we haven't had any delivered. So I waited a few more days, despairing, thinking, right, well, what's going to happen here? So I called them this morning and just said, well, okay. There we go. Sweet. So I called them this morning and just said to them, okay, any more news? Because I've been given two different stories as to what's going on with this. And they said, oh yeah, we've got some in stock. We've got some that have come in. And I'm like, right, so the original story is right, not the last story I was told. Cool, whatever. But we won't have them yet. And then he was like, no, wait a minute. Actually, no, they're not in with us yet. They've arrived at the port and they're going to have to come into us and then go through quality control. They probably won't be, keeping in mind we're currently first couple of weeks of February, they won't be on the store available until early March. Yeah, there seems to be a real importing problem at the moment. They say it's affected Wiimoto, which meant that they had to change their suppliers from things which caused the issues that you recently saw. And now, Machine Mart obviously just... I'm not blaming Machine Mart. I mean, okay, I'm blaming them for telling me one story then another story, but that's minutiae in the detail, which is that they don't have them. And the reason they don't have them is because they're having such problems getting them in, and that's not really their fault. So I don't hold them to it or, like putting them down. I want to buy the tool from them, but unfortunately I just can't get it in a time frame that's going to make any sense. So what I've done is I've bought a cheaper one that should do the job. It's not perfect, it's certainly not the choice I would have gone with, but I need to move this series forward. It was 45 quid, which is way too cheap, but it looks okay. It's a Draper. I'm sure it will do what I need it to do. I'm not going up to the really high-end torque figures, so it shouldn't put too much strain on it. I think it's going to be okay for this instance. I just don't want to half torque up loads of bolts and it not be right. And it's the same reason I'm waiting on the Cush Drive rubbers still, because they're trying to get them in from Germany and there isn't an alternative in the UK and no one else can get hold of them. But anyway, moving forward with the positive things, seals and pots all replaced. These are all OEM bits. They fit absolutely no issue. Now we just need to change the rubbers on these parts of the front brakes. So we just need to pull these out. There we go. Pull these out. And then down these holes is some old grease, so I'm going to try and clean that out and replace it. Spray some brake cleaner down in there to soften it all. I just stole some earbuds from Reno because I thought these would be the perfect thing to clean down in here. And ew, it's minging. Right, I'm just using cotton buds, brake cleaner and some little sort of strips of material that I'm shoving down into the holes to try and get all this grease out that I can. It doesn't have to be completely grease free because you're about to re-grease it, but it is good to get the old stuff out. And it's also important to clean around the inside seat where this rubber, as you might be able to see, it's got like a locking end. It goes right down into that hole and locks in place. Well, obviously if that's got gunk in it, it's not going to lock in properly. So you want to make sure they're cleaned out. Like the seats of fork seals and things like that, you know. Right, I've got some red rubber grease and I'm just going to get that down into the hole. I'm going to grease the pins a bit anyway, but I just want to get some in here. Right, well that is the brakes, the front brakes, fully done. We've got new Hell brake lines, thanks to Hell, to put on this bike. And we also have the rear one done, and we've done the change the rubber on that. So the brakes are all ready to go back on. That is good progression. Now the day that I'm filming this, the torque wrench is due to arrive tomorrow. So rather than putting those calipers on half torqued and then torque them properly when the torque wrench comes, I'm going to move on to another job of changing the spark plugs. But before I can do that, I need to siphon some fuel out because I was stupid. Okay, so one of the jobs I want to do is change the spark plugs on this bike. There is two ways of doing that. Either you take the radiator off the front and do it from that side, or the other way I've seen is you take, this is what's quite nice about this bike, it's on a hinge tank. You take the airbox out and then you've got direct access just down here. That seems to be the easiest method for me, but I do need to drain some fuel out of the tank because I stupidly didn't empty it as much as I could before I got on with this. So what we need to do is siphon some fuel out of the top, which means I need a key. Give me a minute. I doubt Yamaha's locks are that good. Told you. I just wanted to know if I could pick the lock on this, and the answer is yes, I can. But that's quite stiff. I'm surprised I managed to do that. Okay, it goes without saying, if you're going to be siphoning fuel out of a petrol tank, be careful, it is petrol. If you siphon it from the tank into a proper container like this, you'll mitigate the amount of fumes that are around, but there will still be some, so you don't want sources of ignition and stuff like that. Right, I've tilted it up so I can get the hose right down in there, I'm hoping. Yep, that's resistance. So, obviously, with siphoning, what you do is you have to suck the liquid until the point that it's about halfway down the tube, and as long as this header tank is much higher than the tank it's going to, the force of the water pulling down will suck more, and it's a continuous cycle. Don't suck it till you drink petrol. Oh, crap, crap, crap. Dealing with a fuel spill 101. If it's diesel, put sand down. If it's petrol, brush it. But make sure there's no sources of ignition, etc. The reason you brush it is it thins it, which makes it evaporate faster. Okay, minor crisis averted. Check your container is not damaged. I had no idea that thing was damaged. So I've basically transferred all the fuel over into the new can. I've got a new can that isn't damaged. And now I'm going to continue. Just remember, the whole time you can see fuel in the line, it will be siphoning, pretty much. Because when it runs out the top, it's going to let air bubbles go down, and that's just going to drain on through. There we go. Go. Okay, so I've drained the fuel, disconnected the electric lines, got little clips on them, disconnected the little fuel line hose fitting, which has like a clip that goes over the top. I thought these were connected in for some reason, but they're breathers, of course. I'm not going to hide that fact. I thought these were connected, and I just went to pull one off and was like, oh, yeah, they're breathers, that's right. Whatever. We can now remove this. Thanks to the diabetic biker, I now have some T-handled Allens. They discovered, well, they taught me, it was a thing called Amazon drop boxes, where people can order stuff now. So I don't need to have a PO box if anyone wanted to do that. There we go. Right, this should just lift off now. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's one here. I think they all move quite easily. Line up the top here. Obviously this is an inline-four. It's got 4 Jubilee type clips. Right, okay. Well, there we go. Okay, so after a little bit of research online, it seems the preferred method is to go in through this way, so I've just got to undo everything and anything in my way, which includes these hoses. And the clamps are hidden right down. There's one. Okay, it appears everything here is held on by this bracket, so I might as well undo this. I wonder if the Bosch can actually undo anything. Oh yeah. Okay, that's handy. There we go. So there we go. We are now down to the plugs. I'm just going to mark these so I don't make a mistake. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we've just got the issue of how we're going to get those out. This little tool is actually for my DRZ. It's a spark plug tool which can bend, so you can get down into the spark plug holes. But also, it's got a little rubber retainer, so when you push it onto the spark plug, it pulls it out. Now, I think these should be the same size, so I think a socket's going to work better on this case. Ta-da! Ooh! Okay, colour correction and stuff's going to be off a bit, so you can't quite make this out as you should, but the colour is about right, you know, it's a sort of a brown. It's not too rich looking, not too lean. It's not, I mean, the electrode doesn't look too deteriorated, the gap. Yeah, the gap looks fine. So, pop our new plug in, and then it's very important to only do these up by hand to start with. Obviously, if you went straight in with a ratchet or something and you've misaligned the threads and you cross the threads on your head, it's a world of hurt. It will probably end up needing to be drilled and helicoiled. And you also don't want to do them too tightly. I just know what feels right with the spark plug from experience. 1 done. 3 to go. And you need to make sure you push them down hard enough that you hear all the clicks, because that's when it will seal at the top. Number one for number one. And that is the spark plugs changed. To you, that was just a few minutes of video. To me, it's going to be an awful lot longer, because I've got to get this all back together now. And the hardest thing, I think, is going to be getting this rubber tray back where it belongs. Okay, a couple of days has passed, and finally a torque wrench has arrived. This isn't the one I wanted, but this will do, and also it'll be interesting to see if a cheaper torque wrench is going to be okay. I've got to get this series moving forward, so this was the best option. So what I need to do now is kind of get the bike back together a bit, so let's get on with that. But first, I want to know what that is rattling around in the airbox. It was a stone off the road. How has that got up inside the airbox? Like, for real. There's a bit of a dirty mark on this air filter, but it's actually not that old, so I'm quite happy to reuse this. So you can pop that back in. That's actually relatively clean in there, so that's that sorted. Just give it a quick wipe down with some WD-40, get all the dust and the grease and anything like that off. That'll do. I've given it a clean all the way around. I've been careful not to move these clips because they are accessible at those angles and kind of those angles only. So yeah, let's just stick this back on. So as you saw earlier on, I was getting the tray back in. The camera actually died during that process, but it is a bit tricky to get this rubber tray in, but once you kind of get these bits in the right place, there's a couple of clips that make sense, and you'll see where it goes back in. It's a bit of a fiddle though. Right, what we need to do is put this all back in. Sorry, I know this is very difficult to see because it's down in here, it's all dark. Basically, I've got to slide the clip. Oh. Come on. Slide the clip up the tube and get it over. And then get the clip separately down. And once it's down enough, you have to bend it over down into the little slots so the tabs are out of the way. There's holes for that, but I found putting a bit of WD-40 on the tube made that a lot easier. I tightened this up first, and I've realised there's quite a lot of movement in it, and it wasn't in line for where it needs to be. So I'm going to leave that loose, put this back in, get it on top of the ports. Okay, I've got it far enough down now. I found that I actually needed to get these hoses on at the same time I was pushing it down to get everything to seat down fully. Oh, electrical connector. They're all done, so I can put the screw back in the front. Remember, I need to tighten that bracket in a minute. And then I need to do up each of those clips. All hoses on, all electrical connectors are on, everything's tightened up, everything's locked down, this is all tightened up. So that's the airbox back in. Now we can put the tank back on. I'm going to quickly put a zip tie around the heated grip power line because I put it loose through here for ease. Laziness, to be honest. First things first, let's get this bolt through. Okay, first things first, to make sure there's no more fuel leaking, so take off this little bung I made. Now, being a fuel pump, it shouldn't leak much, but there was fuel continuously coming out of it, kind of. Right, so that goes on like so. And it should push the clips, and it will go in like that. And then there was this that goes over everything and holds that in place. Then these are breathers, which both need to go. I just need to connect the green one on there and the white one on there. Thankfully, they've actually done these in a way that you can't put the wrong one on. So fuel line's connected, power's connected, breathers are going down the right place to go out the side of the bike. So spark plugs are done. Good progression. Now torque wrench. Ta-da! Much bigger than my other one. I need the bottom ones to be 30 Newton meters, so that is on 30. These are on 25 currently, so hopefully this is just going to tighten a little bit and click. So now we've torqued the bottom ones correctly, and we have torqued the top caps correctly, we can now torque these ones correctly. Which they basically were anyway. Okay, I'm going to wrap this episode up here because I've actually made some good progression. Obviously, that's all torqued up now, spark plug is done. The next step is to put the brakes on and put the Hell brake lines on, thanks to Hell for sending me those. But the thing is, to do that, I want to also put the rear brake on, but to put the rear brake on, I need to be able to put the rear wheel on, and to put the rear wheel on, I need to have the cush rubbers, which I don't have yet. Also, I'm slightly confused as exactly how these front brakes work, because they're a bit of a weird design when they don't use pins, and I don't remember exactly how they came apart. I'm sure this is right, but it doesn't make sense, so I'm going to take some time to edit this and get it online, and I can learn exactly how these brakes worked, watch me take them apart, realise why I'm being dumb, which means I get to learn. And then in the next episode, hopefully I'll have the cush rubbers soon, and we can get the rear wheel on, and then we're actually getting pretty close to being done, to be fair. In the box, so we need the right cush rubbers because these ones are wrong. We need to get the chain on, but that's no issue. We need to change the front sprocket. But other than that, and the Hell brake lines, which are here, and the fairings and stuff, and there's a couple of paint things I want to try and fix on this. Oh, and coolant. We're actually getting pretty close to being there. It's good. But yeah, the cush rubbers is what we're waiting on now. And me to learn about those brakes a bit more. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.